Dude, you guys, what's up? I'm Hildy. Welcome to my Autism Disco. Episode 5. See? I fucking told you that there would be an episode 5, and here it is. Ta-da! It is just after sunrise here in the Bay Area in California. And it's been a particularly beautiful sunrise. I'm not gonna lie, you guys. I mean, I think all sunrises are beautiful. But certainly when we have some cloud action going on out there, yeah, it's a really gorgeous display. It always reminds me of like orange sherbet or something. You know what I mean? Or like, what were those popsicles? They were like really tall, kind of thick cylinders. They didn't taper, and they were like swirly, orange, red, yellow type. What the fuck? You guys know what I'm talking about. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. I always fucking love those things. God damn it, they were my favorite. Yeah, we ate a lot of popsicles. When I was a kid, my mom was fucking obsessed with popsicles. My mom's still obsessed with popsicles. Actually, she likes like the icy type things that come in like the little plastic tubs. Yeah, but okay, and do you guys remember the we used to eat a lot of those. They were like double sticked popsicles, right? It was like two popsicles fused together. And when my mom was pregnant with my brother was born in 85. She used to buy these enormous bags full of those popsicles, right? Of various like flavors and colors and stuff. And the hard and fast rule was that my sister and I were not allowed to eat the blue popsicles. Like that was, no, like seriously not okay. My mom was obsessed with blue popsicles when she was pregnant with my brother. Yeah, there's a connection with all that red dye she consumed. That's a story for another day. But anyway, popsicles. They're delightful, and the sunrise reminds me of popsicles sometimes. So there you guys go. Now you know. Now you know. Anyway, so I'm not going to lie, you guys, after I talked about sort of, I don't know, where my health is right now, last episode, for a minute yesterday, I was like, wait, am I in a flare? You know what I mean? Like there are enough signs and symptoms that are sort of pointing that way right now. But it's not. And if it is, it's completely different than any other flare I've been through. And I haven't had flares, right, in a couple of years. Actually, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I had like 4 or 5. I essentially had like winter flare, summer flare, winter flare, summer flare, right? And then once I had been on the diet long enough, poof, no more flares. I know. So this would be different. This would be new. But the main reason I don't think I'm in a flare, though, is that I think I mentioned I have a few handful. I don't know. There's more, but there's like 3 main ones. Actually, I think I don't know. It's hard for me to classify this kind of shit, but there's essentially like 5 main flare symptoms, flare specific symptoms that even when my histamine intolerance is like questionable, right? Because I've been eating crap or whatever, I don't get these symptoms ever at all outside of a flare. Actually, yeah, there's more than 5. There's quite a few. I mean, well, this is like I have to triangulate. You know what I mean? Like I have to, yeah, there are a lot of factors that there's so many symptoms from so many bodily systems, right, that overlap and cluster together. And, it just, yeah, it's a pattern, right? I mean, that's what my brain loves to do is seek out patterns. And so, yeah, it's sort of a puzzle I put together, right? But it's like I have to hit certain marks to qualify for an actual flare. And I'm not having those symptoms right now. So again, I don't think it's an actual flare, which is part of why I think that, I don't know, my immune system is spun up for another reason. Yeah. I mean, when I'm really, really fucking sick, all of my histamine intolerance symptoms disappear completely, right? Which I think I told you guys. That's a huge part of how I figured out it was an immune dysregulation issue, is because when I first got sick with COVID, yeah, all my fucking symptoms just poof, disappeared, vanished without a trace. So anyway, I'm not quite right though. You know what I mean? And at this point, like I'm so keyed in to what's going on in my body that any slight change, yeah, becomes really obvious, right? So anyway, I don't think it's a flare, but it's sort of acting like a flare, and it's fucking obnoxious. Yeah, I'm over it. But anyway, I'm still here. Here I am, sitting down to do this once again. Yay, me. Um, and and I'm trying not to have as much of a destination per episode because that's part of what makes me keeps me in my head about it, right? Because I've decided I have very specific information I want to share per episode, right? And like I don't outline them or script them, obviously, or whatever. And so sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, right? But it's always there, like, oh crap, you just went on another tangent, bring it back. Like, we have stuff we actually want to be saying. So I'm trying to, again, just lower my standards, lower my expectations, make this a little bit easier on myself. So what I'm going to talk about right this moment, because of course I realize that, I haven't been through like the basics of the low histamine diet and that kind of thing, which has sort of been, that was the next stage, right? That was supposed to be like episode 4. Again, really information heavy, but we're trying out a slightly different model. So here we are. What I am going to talk about though is unmasking for at least a minute, probably far longer than a minute. But yeah, so we talk about unmasking, right? Especially for those of us heavily, heavily masked individuals who went, the majority of our lives like that. We talk about unmasking and what that looks like, what that means, and what the downstream benefits of that are, right? And so at this point, I have been actively working on unmasking for 3 years. And for the last 2 and change, I've at least been interacting more with people online, right? I'm very socially isolated still, like in real life, in person. And that's been the case for years now. But when I started working with a therapist who specializes in working with autistic individuals, and this was like late summer 2023, so, 9 months after I had, officially self-diagnosed autistic. Yeah, and totally serendipitous how I ended up finding this therapist, which I'm not going to go into right now. But yeah, serendipity, you guys, seriously. Oh, man. Yeah, it follows me around everywhere. Anyway, so I really enjoyed working with him. Unfortunately, we had an insurance change the following spring, and I haven't been able to see him since then. At some point, I'd love to go back, but so he recommended a specific social media app that was originally created just for autistic individuals, like a dedicated, safe, autistic space for autistic adults to socialize and mingle and like date, right? It was like a friendship dating kind of app. And I'm not even going to say the name of the app because at this point it's a fucking dumpster fire and I can't recommend it at all. But when I joined, it was still in its like sweet spot, right? So I got maybe like, I don't know, 9 months or something before they completely shit the bed. Ugh. And there was like a mass exodus, and now it's nothing like it was, which again is why I'm not even going to fucking say its name because, yeah. Anyway, but that experience was really fucking valuable for me, right? Because I had been socially isolated for so long by that point that, and now I knew that I was autistic. And I essentially had to practice peopling, right? Which is how I think of it. And that seemed like the best place for me to practice peopling again, right? Was amongst people who fucking got it. And the experience was downright life-changing. I'm not going to lie. I mean, not that everybody, Jesus Christ, imagine an app just for autistic adults, right? It takes all kinds. There were, vastly, there were people from all over the spectrum, right? But I ended up learning, oh my God, so much more about myself, right? Like interacting with these people, hearing their stories, hearing them describe their lives, their experiences, hearing them bring up aspects and topics that, right, were new to me, just constantly finding myself going, wait a minute, that's what that fucking is? Holy shit. Right? This is why people are like, why is everybody fucking autistic these days? Well, this is why. One, if everyone in your fucking circle is autistic, yeah. That's maybe something you should consider through a very specific lens. But anyway, Um, the point is that we now have the internet, right? We are now able to connect. Well, one, we're able to figure out our truth, right? Without having to find some fucking professional who will actually take us seriously and who actually knows what the fuck they're even looking at, right? Especially for grown ass women like me, highly masked, right? Highly intelligent, all the rest of it. Yeah. Right. And that's what it takes, decentralizing this kind of shit, right? If we all have to wait to go through the official channels, right? I'm still not professionally diagnosed and I'm autistic as fuck. You know what I mean? And so it's just gatekeeping. It's medical gatekeeping, right? So what we've done now is we've circumvented that. We've circumvented the, ivory tower academic medical bullshit. I mean, in a lot of ways, I think of it as we've essentially circumvented the focus and priorities of white men, right? I mean, that's, yeah. Uh-huh. But this is the idea, right, of the internet and democratizing information. And so, as many of you know, the process becomes like dominoes, right? One person in a friend group or one person in a family, or right, figures out that they're autistic, and then it go right, and then it's okay. Wait a minute, but if she is, then he is, and if he is, then I definitely am, and if I am, then she is, and right, and it's dominoes, yeah. And you know what? That's not a journey and process everybody wants to go through. So I have had people in my circles figure out that they must be autistic because I am, and they don't like that. I mean, this is not an insignificant reason I'm estranged from my family, you guys. Yeah. Right. I mean, the situation with my family is obviously complex and layered and has, decades of trauma behind it and all the rest of it. But yeah, nobody in my family likes the implications of me being autistic. Right. Yeah. So they essentially deny that that's the case. And apparently if they do admit it could even be a possibility, they're like, well, but that's not her issue. She's just a fucking cunt. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So anyway, whatever. Right. So obviously that accounts for, a decent portion of the uptick in identification, at least, even if we're not all getting officially diagnosed, we're at least able to identify ourselves and each other. I do, and obviously we're learning more about autism every year and ADHD, all of these things, right? So obviously, yeah, it's, identification and diagnoses are going to go up anyway. I do personally think that there are other factors raising the rates of things like ADHD and autism. I'm not going to go into that right now, but that's going to be that's a significant topic of conversation for us too. Especially because it ties into all this other shit that I'm here to talk about. So anyway, I'm going to leave that there for the moment. But so disseminating information, identifying ourselves, and then congregating online to learn more about ourselves, right? Because once you identify the autism, that's not the end. That's just the beginning, right? Or it should just be the beginning, right? There are a lot of people who discover they're specifically autistic or ADHD, and almost instantaneously decide that makes them an expert on ADHD and or autism, right? I mean, yeah, a lot of the content creators out there focused on these things qualify as that, especially the white people and, especially the white women out there doing it, right? I mean, which again, I'm part of the most insufferable demographic. I get it. Which again is a large part of why I emphasize the fact that I am not an expert, right? And there's a difference between educating yourself on your autism versus educating yourself on autism in general, right? Because yeah, if all you're doing is, again, centering your own personal experience, while that's important, and again, like I'm saying, it takes all of us sharing our individual stories for all of us to gain a fuller picture of what we're dealing with individually, right? But if you're going to educate on autism, you need to be well versed in autism, not just your autism. You know what I mean? And again, this is not to say that people shouldn't be out there sharing their personal stories. They should. But if you're positioning yourself as some sort of expert, right, bestowing information, insights, all the rest of it, yeah, you should be backing that up with more than just your personal experience, right? So again, that's why it's really important to me that I'm not like, okay, class, sit down. I I don't have all the answers. I never will. None of us will. Again, I don't need to be right, right? That's not part of this. I have worked really, really fucking hard to, disentangle my ego from all of this, because again, accuracy is most important to me. So, unmasking. So being online, right, in this specific dedicated space, was really fucking beneficial for me. And but that was like, I don't know, like fall 2023 through like summer 2024, basically. And that's where I met, right, these few friends I told you guys about. And but what's interesting is that when I look back on it now, right, obviously I can see how much I was still masking in a lot of ways, right? It's really fucking hard to deconstruct the mask, or the masks plural, right? I'm like Johnny on the spot with the masks, right? I'm like, ooh, who do you need me to be? Well, I can be someone different later today too. You know what I mean? Like, just tell me what you need. I got you, fam. Yeah, that's sort of how I've moved through life, and not sort of, really. That's definitely how I've moved through life. Which is why we all end up having such a fucking identity crisis when we get to middle age, right? I'm like, who the fuck am I? I don't know who, it's like you don't know who you are unless you have someone else to mirror you back to you, because being in the other person's presence is what is facilitating who you think you are in that moment, right? Like, it's such an epic fucking mindfuck. Yeah. Anyway. And so it's a process, right? It's not a flip that gets switched. You're not like, oh, now I'm unmasking. Like, no. And it's different depending on the environment, depending on the people you're with, right? Like in public, I don't know if I will ever get to the point where I can fully unmask in public, right? Those algorithms, man, yeah, talk about automatic. Again, when I interact with people in public, which happens, right, again, all the fucking time, because people are really fucking drawn to me, and I really like people too. So like I think I've said, these sort of short interactions I have with complete strangers, like in the middle of the frozen aisle of Costco, or one of the frozen aisles of Costco, they're like really profound and meaningful experiences. So this is how I connect to other people best in person, or at least at this stage of my life, are these just quick interactions that again end up being really profound. I mean, sometimes I'm in tears hugging strangers in public, you guys, and this is coming from the woman who doesn't like to be touched, right? This is what I mean. Because a lot of time it's older people, right? Yeah, because I'm happy to stop and chat with them, and that's meaningful for them. I can't count the number of times I have been thanked by an elderly person who I've stopped to chat with in public. And oftentimes they're giving me their whole life story, right? And I'm just happy to like sit there and listen and interact and, respond and hold space for them and make them feel seen. And, right? That's really important for everyone, but especially for our elderly population, because in this country, we treat them like shit, right? I mean, except for the ones who manage to hold on to power. But let's not talk about them right now. Anyway, so unmasking is a process. Depends on where you are, who you're with, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? But it builds off of itself as you have more and more interactions in which you are not filtering your entire persona, all of your thoughts, all of your words, everything through these filters and algorithms, which again, for most of us, they're just running unconsciously in the background, right? Like I think I've said, like I literally don't know what's coming out of my own mouth until it comes out and I hear it. You know what I mean? That is how, yeah, that is the significance and the power of our masks. that it's like a track, right? A rut that just, right? The wagon wheels like go over the same, just over and over and over again. I mean, it's like, neural pathways in the brain, neuroplasticity, right? Like the thoughts and the actions that we repeat, that's what our brain wants to keep doing, right? And so, yeah, by the time you're fucking, in your 40s, 30s, whatever, yeah, that shit is solid, and it takes significant work to unpack it, right? To even identify it. I mean, again, identity crisis. Who am I? Do I actually like this thing? I don't fucking know. So anyway, but like I said, I haven't really done social media for years now, except for this, sort of brief interaction online. But yeah, I do obviously have an Instagram page for my autism disco, despite not having posted one single thing. But then when you're on Instagram, right, they are feeding you threads posts, right? So that's how I sort of eventually migrated. This is fairly recently, maybe like 6 months ago. I started actually, like spending more time on threads, not just clicking from Instagram, but then actually scrolling the feed on threads. And yeah, like I said, you guys, it's a really special thing happening on threads right now. And yeah, I think it should be studied, right? From like a sociological, anthropological standpoint. I mean, it's not going to last, right? Of course, but for the moment, it's pretty fucking special. But so I have been interacting on threads. And of course, I don't know any of these fucking people. That's sort of the point of threads, right? Like nobody's following people they know or vice versa, right? We're all just hyping up strangers and shit. It's fabulous, seriously. And what I'm realizing now, interacting on threads, and probably more heavily just in the last few months, I am realizing how far I've come in my unmasking. It's seriously just in the last few months too. I mean, just since I've rebooted the podcast. I mean, for instance, episode 4, you noticed there was definitely background noise. I specifically left it in. You know what I mean? I did not edit that nearly as heavily as I normally do in terms of like trying to get rid of all the mouth noises and all the ancillary background noise and all the rest of it. And yeah, when I went back and listened to it, the final that I ended up publishing, it's a little repetitive, right? Like I repeat myself a lot, but that's just how I talk. Right. And that's my goal with this. I want you guys to feel like we're just sitting down having a conversation. Again, a one-sided conversation. But, I can hold my own in a one-sided conversation. Can I not? I can. And like I've said before, you guys are free to just talk back to me on your end. That's cool. I'm totally cool with that. Anyway, so, but I was not comfortable enough to do that previously. Right? Even when I, especially during the first iteration, oh my God, yeah, I was obsessed with how this sounded and perfection and all the rest of it. And I don't have that like, freak out need to perfectly curate everything to maintain, right? Whatever this illusion is I'm trying to project to the world, right? This is what unmasking is all about. Right? Because unmasking is not just figuring out who we're not. It's then peeling back all those layers to figure out who the fuck we actually are under all of that. Authenticity is really fucking hard for people like me. But it finally dawned on me that there is one highly significant change that is really demonstrating how far I've come with my unmasking. And so previous to the last few months on Threads, including when I was socializing on this other social media app a couple of years ago, and definitely back when I was, heavily into social media, which was, quite long ago, I experience, and not just with interacting with people online, I experience this frequently. I mean, less so now, but when I look back over the course of my life, this is an experience I have on a constant basis. And so I've now more recently heard it described as an adrenaline dump, which feels really accurate to the experience. But anytime I have a surge of like fear, confusion, embarrassment, especially, right? My whole body just, it's the weirdest, like hot, flooding, sinking sensation. right? And my heart rate goes up and my mouth gets dry. And right, it's like, and again, it's like this heavy, like hot, blood flow changes. And yeah. Yeah. And so it's a stress response, right? Um, or like when you have a near miss, right? When like a car like nearly hit you and it didn't happen, right? And you're like, your system floods with like, oh shit, like it geared up, it geared up to protect you. And now we don't need to. And yeah. Um, and so I think for a lot of people, that sensation, right, that only occurs when the situation is quite dangerous, right? Or like the near miss was, almost fatal or whatever. Or you were actually terrified for your life or something like that. That's just a guess. I don't really know because I'm not a fucking normal person. But for me, that happens all the fucking time. All the fucking time. Again, less so now. But throughout the course of my life, oh man, and just constantly during interactions with people and especially interactions online. Because see, when I'm dealing with someone in person, those algorithms are much more automatic because they have to be, right? I mean, response time, again, I don't know what I'm saying until it's coming out of my mouth. Like my brain's doing all the heavy lifting. I'm just sort of along for the ride. Whereas when I'm interacting with people online, right, written or just email, text, whatever, written based, I have all the fucking time in the world to second guess what I'm actually saying, how I'm actually saying it, right? All the rest of it. And so in the before times, interacting on social media, I could never understand how people could be so active, right? In terms of just the quantity of posts and comments and interactions. Because one simple comment could take me like an hour to write, right? Yeah. It was so like, how the fuck are people like keeping up with all this? I can't do it. Yeah, well, that's why I wasn't just responding to people as my own authentic self, right? I was curating myself within every single comment, every post, even every reaction. And then once I posted it, I would have that flooding adrenaline sensation. Every post, every comment, every reaction on someone else's post. I mean, right? Even if I wasn't actually writing out any words, any sort of interaction in which it could be observable from the outside or commented on or judged or, you know what I mean? Someone could form an opinion of me based on that. I freaked the fuck out. And, a lot of times obviously was going back and like deleting posts after the fact and, you know what I mean? Like freaking out, editing, like, yeah, I couldn't, because it wasn't just coming from me. Right. But now, you guys, holy fuck. Seriously, Threads has kind of been therapy at this point, essentially. Because it dawned on me, you guys, I don't have that experience anymore, ever, when interacting online. Ever. And I mean, I haven't been like all day, every day on Threads, but I've been pretty active the last couple of months. It's, like I said, it's been like therapy. It's been like emotional support. But yeah. Right. And like I'm interacting. I mean, it's not like I have a huge following or, you know what I mean? But like, yeah, some of my shit's gone viral, I guess, I've interacted with thousands of people. And I never have that sensation. I'm just able to be me. And I'm able to keep up with like the posts and the comments and the back and forth because I'm just authentically, translating exactly what's in my brain and then moving on. You guys, what the fuck? Like seriously, it's like life-changing for me, life-changing. And so think about what that's doing then. If I have this major stress response every single time I fucking interact with someone and now I don't, oh my God, right? Oh, my nervous system is like completely changing, right? Yeah, I know. It's so fucking cool. So anyway, these are just, the thoughts I've been having lately. I mean, which is right. The benefit of doing this shorter form more often is that, I can't just sit here and talk about what's going on in my brain, which is kind of the whole point of this. But anyway, unmasking, people kind of don't understand, some people don't understand the benefits. Some people don't understand what that even is or looks like. And yeah, it is really mind boggling to be experiencing it and noticing these changes like in real time, right? And significant changes because that's the thing, right? I am isolated in all sorts of ways. Um and I need to be connecting with other people, right? I mean, that, the right. So the person who did the podcast episode about my podcast, and I don't know if I feel weird about like naming people or, accounts or whatever, because I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to bother them. I don't want to like mention them in my podcast. That might bother them. Anyway, they're absolutely lovely. I'm gonna, have to owe them some therapist fees at some point. Um, but that was one of the things they specifically said, is that I have a really unique way of connecting with people. Um, and it's true. I do. Which is why I say, like, I both love and hate people, right? Um, and obviously, a large piece of that has to come down to the hyper empathy, right? I cannot move through life not considering the experiences of other people. That is just not, that's not reality for me at all. Um, but previous to now, connecting with others has always come with like debt, essentially, right? Because I was so heavily masked that the interactions took way more out of me than they should have, right? The energy flow was very much, well, not very much, but it was lopsided. I get a lot from my interactions with other people. And even when I was masked more often, more heavily, but it's still exhausting. Even a simple interaction in the middle of the grocery store is exhausting after the fact for me. Um, Whereas now, I can connect with people authentically and keep it going. You know what I mean? It's not like um, it's less like a give and take and more like a give and build, right? Um, I mean, which is not to say that peopling is still not exhausting for me. You know what I mean? And it's not like I've been to like, I haven't been to a huge social gathering in years, many years. I think I've only done like one-on-one socializing in person for years now. Yeah. Um, okay, no, I had lunch with my mom and a really good family friend last year. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm not, yeah. So if I was to go to some like party or, gathering or dinner or whatever, like, Jesus Christ, yeah, that would still probably really take it out of me. I'm actually curious to know how that would affect me at this point. Um, so, so yeah, I mean, I potentially, like I said, especially in public or something, I may never be able to fully drop that mask. Um, but the unmasking has become such a fucking benefit in my interactions with other people, right? I'm getting so much more out of these interactions, and they're just building on each other, right? So my confidence and, my sense of self-worth and, right. And a lot of these things have only been translated through other people's opinion of me, right? Because like I said, it's I, when you're so heavily masked, yeah, it's like you don't know who you are until you're reflected back to you from someone else, right? And especially for someone like me, right? So I've mentioned my journey of decentering men at this point. I have, and a lot of this is I think tied up. I'm actually in the middle of writing a piece on this specifically. But yeah, a lot of my relationships and interactions with men obviously are colored by my relationship with my father. I mean, hi, Freudian, but here we are. And I was desperate for my father's approval, like so many of us. Um, and right. And again, my dad didn't want kids. He didn't like kids. He didn't know what to do with kids because, hi, the man was like raging ADHD, right? And kids are loud, they're unpredictable, they're needy, they're sticky, they're stinky, right? I mean, you guys know I fucking love them, but seriously, objectively, I get it. If you weren't like obsessed with kids and babies like I am, yeah, they're kind of fucking obnoxious, and sometimes they're really fucking obnoxious. So anyway, like I get it, right? Just from that standpoint. Um, So because I was so keyed in, empathetic, and intuitive and observant, seriously, you guys, I was like an alien child, right? And I mean, I'm really, really, I already knew that. And yeah, now knowing more about my brain and, my development and all the rest of it. Yeah, like I was, again, this is what I mean by nobody knew what to fucking do with me. I was like eerie in my observation skills, my intuition, my just, yeah, I was, which again is how and why it was so hard for anyone to even see the neurodivergence, right? Because again, I'm just a really excellent fucking mimic, right? I have good instincts, I have high empathy, I have high intelligence, and I'm an excellent mimic. That's essentially what it comes down to, right? Yeah. Yeah. So then when I was with my dad, though, it wasn't acceptable to display any normal child traits or attributes, right? Like that wasn't acceptable to him. And when I mean I was obsessed with my dad from the get go, I'm talking like baby. By the time I was toddling around, which was really fucking early for me, right? I walked at 7 months. I was like my dad's barnacle. You know what I mean? Like so many of my childhood memories are, yeah, being in the garage with my dad, being in the shop with my dad, being in the pickup truck with my dad, being on the back of my dad's motorcycle, being in the hardware store with my dad. Like, yeah, I walk into any hardware store and it's, yeah, dad coded. And this is the really interesting dichotomy, I think, between the ADHD and the autism, especially for me, since I am combined type ADHD. I had a shit ton of energy as a kid. I was obnoxious and loud, and you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I was that kid. I was entertaining, but only for a certain amount of time. But I couldn't do that with my dad, right? So I learned at an extraordinarily early age that I needed to be quiet, calm, and most of all, helpful, right? And funny. My dad really appreciated humor, right? This is where I get a lot of my like humor from, is my dad, and that's why it tends to be sort of like prepubescent male coded. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the kind of stand up my dad was introducing me to when I was still in elementary school, and I will start to make more sense. Don't you worry. Anyway, and so what I find really fascinating is that I was able to do that, right? Because the ADHD side for me is hugely impulsive, right? Again, as a 45-year-old grown ass woman, I still hit every single diagnostic criteria on the hyperactive impulsive side of ADHD. Mm-hmm. Yeah. However, I'm also fucking autistic. And I'm pretty sure that's where the insane ironclad self-control comes from, right? Because I do. I mean, look at me. Look at this fucking diet I've been doing for 3.5 years. That literally I explain to any single person and they're like, oh God, I could never do that. Literally to a one. Everybody's like, you wait, I'm sorry, what? Yeah. And so that's obviously what I did as a kid, right? So when I was with my dad, I was on my best fucking behavior. And we're talking from like the toddler years, right? That's how clued in I was to what other people needed, wanted, or expected of me, right? Yeah. Which clearly did a fuck ton of damage, but yeah, here we are trying to undo the damage. So I think obviously being, cis, hetero, all the rest of it plays a huge role, but then also for someone like me being so obsessed with my dad, having a dad who fundamentally just didn't like me, right? And so then just so focused on contorting myself into someone that was acceptable to him, right? I mean, which is why I think I have such a developed sense of humor. You know what I mean? I had to learn to be funny because that's one of the main things my dad appreciated intelligence, raw intelligence, and humor, right? He, feelings, emotions, kindness, compassion. Yeah, he appreciated those things. My dad was actually a very kind, compassionate person. It came out in really, really interesting ways, especially when it comes to animals. Mm-hmm. But my dad didn't have time or patience for bullshit, right? And so it seems pretty clear that this informs my lifelong status as a pick-me girl. I know. It sucks. Like, it sucks to realize how much I have been a pick me girl over the course of my life. Um, and yeah, like I said, I'm in the middle of writing a piece about this because, yeah, there's a lot to it, I think. Um, because I think my pick me girl ness looked maybe slightly different than it does a lot of the time because I wanted to be accepted by boys and men as an equal, right? Like I wasn't interested in being accepted by men as like a, I don't know, object of their desire or, love interest or whatever. I mean, yes, that too. But, for the most part, I wanted to be seen and treated by males as an equal, right? Um, so in a lot of ways, what I realize now is, my ability to hack it around men, around males, and their, ways of interacting, ways of joking, all of that was what allowed me access to their world. Did a lot of that stuff make me highly uncomfortable? Yeah. Like I couldn't admit it at the time, right? Like I didn't want to be one of those girls who couldn't handle like raunchy jokes and shit, right? Um, and yeah, so I had to stuff a lot of my like initial reactions to things. I mean, but again, this is part of me burying my authenticity over the course of my life, right? And I've realized that a lot of it came down to safety, actually, right? Um, and like all of us, we are all coming up with conscious or unconscious strategies to stay safe from men, right? And I think that has been a fundamental way that I have stayed safe. I mean, not completely, right? We've all got the same stories, right? But in a lot of ways, if I can hold my own with men, I'm seen less as a viable target, right? Yeah, I think, like I said, this is something I've really been considering lately. And yeah, I think that's what this comes down to. Yeah, so a lot of my unmasking has always been wrapped up in, impressing men, right? Being accepted by men, distinguishing myself from other women. I know it's a very anti feminist position. I get it. I'm unearthing that shit now. Um, and that was easier for me to fall into, I think, because I am such a tomboy. I'm not like other women. I mean, you know what I mean? That's so cliche. Oh, you're not like other women. Well, I'm literally not like other women. You know what I mean? Like when men say that to me, it's not just a line. They're like, holy shit, you're not like other women. Yeah, I know. And I'm like really not like other women. And it's so funny, like sort of dabbling in dating now, because and trying to do it unmasked. Yeah, I think dating is like the final frontier of unmasking. More so, I don't know if being in public or yeah, being in like a intimate relationship, either one, definitely final frontiers of unmasking. But what I'm finding is that, and of course, I'm only attracted to men as fucked up as I am, right? I mean, which is what, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a huge part of the problem. And so, all these men are, at least ADHD, if not, and or autistic. And I specifically seek out the guys who are open, right, about the fact that they are into weird girls, right? I'm like, ooh, but that's a huge green flag for me, right? Um, However, what I'm finding is that I'm too weird even for the guys who are, quote, into weird girls. You know what I mean? I mean, I think we all have very different definitions of the word weird, right? I think a lot of guys who are into, quote, weird girls are into quirky girls, right? Like, I don't have the quirky ADHD and autism. Well, no, I do. I'm extraordinarily quirky, but it doesn't end there. It's not just quirky. I'm fucking weird, right? Like, really fucking weird. And at this point, I am not interested in, dating or partnering up with anybody that I just can't be fucking weird with, right? Um, but again, most of the guys out there, like, advertising the fact that they're into weird girls, I'm not what they mean at all, at all. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm just, you know, I, yeah, I am. I know. I was talking to my best friend about this the other day. Um, Yeah, because part of me feels like I will never be able to completely unmask and find like another partner because I'm not acceptable to anybody like completely unmasked. And I mean, you guys are only getting like a small glimpse, right, of my weirdness in this podcast. Eventually, when I start making other forms of content, especially video content, you're going to see a lot more of the weirdness. Um, and it takes so much fucking energy to hide that. Like that's how weird I am. You know what I mean? It's too much. I can't hide it anymore. Like I just and I mean I have no desire to, right? Um but that really runs up against my lifelong dedication to packaging myself for men, right? Um and that shit's fucking exhausting. Right? I mean, masking is exhausting. This accounts for a large part of why we all eventually hit burnout, right? Which is when a lot of us eventually figure out what the fuck is going on. And I mean, like the ultimate burnout, because people like me have been experiencing burnout our whole fucking life, right? On like a cyclical basis. And especially women, we hit, start getting into perimenopause. And at that point, right, especially once we're, married, have kids, like careers, all the rest of it, yeah, the burnout becomes something else entirely. Um, and so unmasking really becomes a way of preserving your energy, right? And creating energy as well. Because for me, I get so much more. Again, like I said, the interactions are much more even in terms of an exchange of energy, right? I don't leave interactions, even online, feeling drained. I leave interactions feeling energized because connecting with people is a significant way for me to feel alive, right? Feel like I have a purpose, feel like I'm on the right track, feel like I'm who I'm supposed to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? I get so much fucking benefit from connecting with other people, which again is why I'm here doing what I'm doing. But doing it unmasked, right, has essentially put a stopper in the energy drain, right? It allows me to not just maintain my own energy, but to actually build off of those interactions and off of those connections. Which you guys is a huge part of why I'm doing so fucking well. Seriously, it's not just the diet. It's not just the exercise, right? It's not just all the other shit I'm doing. A huge part of it is the unmasking. Anyway, so I just wanted to put that out there, especially for people who, are just starting their journey or just wondering, I've interacted with quite a few autistic people in particular who at first, yeah, like the concept of masking in general is completely confusing. They're like, well, I don't understand what that means, right? Like, what does that look like? What is that? And so again, like I said, it's a process, right? You have to identify the mask is there. You have to figure out who it is that you're not. Then you have to figure out who it is that you are. Then you have to practice being that person until you get comfortable enough doing it, right? And then at that point, yeah, things really start to fucking change. Seriously, which is what I mean by the diagnosis is not the end, it's the beginning, right? It's the beginning of education. It's the beginning of tweaking your life to fit you, who you really are, what you really want out of life. And it's fucking gratifying, you guys. It's amazing because 3 years ago, I couldn't see this version of myself yet, right? And the fact that I'm so comfortable now being me with other people means that this is me, right? I have finally unearthed the authentic me, and I'm able to project that into the world now, which is just so fucking cool. Seriously, it's so fucking cool, you guys. Oh, it's so fucking cool. It's taken so much work. And I mean, I'm still working at it every day in a lot of respects, right? But this journey has been, yeah, I just obviously life-changing, mind-boggling, all the rest of it. I mean, I could have never imagined, right? Like a decade ago that this is where I would be. in life. And, again, this is why I say that I'm essentially existing at the intersection of awful and awesome, right? Because, yeah, my life is complete and utter dog shit right now. But, like, I'm doing great. I'm doing totally fabulous in so many respects. Um, yeah, so, life, it's fucking weird, but it also finds a way. So here we are, finding a way, you guys. We're doing it. We're making it happen. I'm proud of us. I'm really fucking proud of us. All right, I think that's gonna do it. I'm at over an hour now recording, so I better shut the fuck up. So we can edit this down to under an hour, which is still gonna be my goal. Yeah, so my hope next episode is to actually return to the histamine intolerance topic, and give you guys a better idea just of the basics, right? What histamine is, what it does in the body, where it's found in nature, what the diet looks like, all the rest of it. Because, yeah, that's a really significant piece of this, obviously. So, yeah, look for that, hopefully, episode 6, which there will be an episode 6, you guys. And hopefully we can do another quick turnaround on this and, gain more momentum and just keep fucking going, right? It's what we're doing, you guys. We're just going to keep fucking going. It's all we can do. So we're doing it. All right, my friends. It is Saturday. Yesterday was the economic shutdown. Yeah. And again, I'm trying to wrap up, so I'm not going to go into this right now. But to those of you on the streets participating, not buying, not going to school, not going to work, right? Making an impact, I fucking see you. And I appreciate the ever living shit out of you. Seriously. And so for those of you, heading out onto the streets this weekend, it's going to be another busy weekend. So be safe, be committed, be optimistic if you can, because we, the people, are fucking powerful, you guys. We really fucking are. That's the entire point. That is precisely why the fucking Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, begins that way. We hold the power, and we are up against unbelievably evil forces. And I don't use that word lightly, right? I'm not someone who throws around the word evil. So when I say evil, I really fucking mean it. But the people are waking up, you guys. I know. I think of it like the ants are waking up, right? The people are waking up, seriously. And this is the power of protest, right? A lot of people are like, well, what the fuck is the point? What is that actually doing? What is that helping? Being out in the street, whatever. It's not affecting any real change. Well, yeah, it fucking is. Yes, it fucking is. Because we are doing it together. And that sort of environment, when you are gathered with one singular focus, that is huge. That is huge, right? We are a social species. This is where we get our energy. This is where we get our collective direction, is by connecting with each other. It excites people. It interests people. It optimizes people. It enlightens people. And it makes people hopeful. It makes people hopeful. And we fucking need that, right? Rebellions are built on hope. We have to hold on to the hope. Obama was definitely onto something there. As disappointing as his presidencies ultimately were in a lot of respects. I adore Obama as an individual. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. And Michelle, they're fabulous people. Are they complicit in, a lot of our current reality? Sure, of course they are. But, at the end of the day, I really fucking like Obama. Jesus Christ. Anyway, but hope, right? Yeah, that's our focus. Let's keep it kindled. We can take turns holding it, right? If you guys need a day off from hoping, you just can't do it, it's cool. I'm going to carry that for you, right? And then when I lose hope, you guys can carry it for me. That's how this works, because we're all in this together. And on that note, if you are here, wherever you are, thank you for being here. Seriously, I mean it when I say that I really fucking appreciate each and every one of you. For real. And we're going to do this again very soon. And maybe you don't even need to put the very in quotes this time. We'll see. We'll see. All right, my friends. That's going to be that. I'm Hildy, and this is My Autism Disco. Catch you on the flip side.